G'day beautiful friends, I hope that you're well. Today I'm going to be reviewing my recent trip to Croatia with Medsailors. You will have already seen quite a lot of the content that I posted whilst being on the trip, but in this video I just wanted to talk about the whole experience in more detail, the things I liked, the things that I think could be improved, how it compared to my Greece trip last year, and hopefully provide a lot more information that you may not have already known, especially if you are thinking of making Medsailors part of your next adventure. So first of all, let me tell you about the route that I did and what that entails according to the Medsailors website. So medsailors.com, skippered sailing holidays for 20 to 35-year-olds, the perfect mix of exploring, partying and relaxation. And then you scroll down and you can see all the destinations on offer. So this year I went to Croatia, where they have two route options. You have the Voyager, which goes from Split to Dubrovnik, or the Discovery, which starts and ends in Split, which is, I think, one of the main reasons I chose that route, as it meant I could buy my return flight to Split from London and it was easy. I think maybe if I was travelling Croatia as part of a bigger Europe trip though, that the Voyager may have been preferable. Anyway, the Discovery route. These are all the places our itinerary went. Let's be honest, I hadn't even heard of half of them, but personally I think that's all part of the fun, to discover the places you didn't even know existed. So let's look at the highlights. We did not actually hire a beetle. Karen and I rented a scooter in Viz, which was fab, and actually I think preferable because we were zipping through some very narrow streets. Partying Hvar, yes, we absolutely did that. It was great. Daily swim stops, absolutely. My favourite thing about Medsailors is this. Water sports in Supertar. I mean, I didn't do any, but our friends did, and it looked fun. Wine tasting in Stari Grad. I think that was Horror Farm with the donkeys and lavender fields. And that really was a wonderful night. I really enjoyed it. I think this may need updating because we definitely didn't go to Zlatni Rat. Perhaps we were supposed to go there on the day we had bad weather, I'm not sure. And Konobas, I believe, means restaurant. And I think here they are referring to our very first night on Salta, which was nice. I wouldn't have necessarily branded it as a highlight though. But what I do think should be on this list, which was a highlight for me, was the caves that we got to swim in. I was not expecting that and it was amazing. And as for what's included, you have 7 days accommodation on the boat, you sleep on the boat, your skipper, who also sleeps on the boat with you. I often get asked, do you have to drive the boat yourself? No, not with Medsailors. Each boat has its own skipper, which I believe actually isn't the case with a few of the other sailing tours. Medsailor skippers are happy to teach you the ropes if you want to learn, no pun intended, but if you don't give a flying vibroshka about learning to sail, that's okay too. Yep, your guest experience leader is included. Ours was Sav, who was amazing. She looks after the guests on all the boats, so I think there was 7 of us boats travelling together, and she can answer all your questions about pretty much anything and ensure that you have the best experience possible. Brekkie and lunch you have included. They are made on the boat by your skipper. Skipper Sam made us some delicious meals on board. I was always happy with them, but dinner is not included. You get that at your own leisure when dropped off on an island. Medsailors will always give you a good recommendation if you're stuck for options, and yep, you can bring your own drinks on board and snacks and keep them in the fridge, which is fab. Stand-up paddleboard and snorkel gear is included to use whenever we stop off, which is great. Tea, coffee and drinking water, yep. Towels, bed linen and cleaning fees. I mean, fairly standard stuff of a basic hotel, to be honest. And transfers to Hvar Old Town. We don't moor up specifically at Hvar Old Town because it's way too busy. So we parked up elsewhere and a big bus took all of us over to Hvar Old Town for our night out. You do have to pay for your own taxis back to the boat though on this particular night, obviously because everyone is leaving from the night out at different times at their own leisure. Now the price of the tour. I always get asked this and it depends on a few factors. The tour you do, the time of year you go and the boat you choose. I've pulled this chart from the Croatia Discovery route for the year 2020. So as you can see, the Premier yacht is the cheapest, followed by the Premier Plus yacht, and then the catamaran is the most expensive. As you can see, they are all on offer right now because it is the early bird prices, so you get a discount for booking far in advance. Woohoo! For full transparency here, I worked with Medsailors to create content and my trip was gifted, but I can honestly say that the trip is well worth the price. And as someone who really values their space, I definitely think the catamaran is well worth the extra cost as well, as you do just get so much more space on the deck area than on the yachts. They also arguably are less likely to make you seasick because of the more balanced structure for less boat rocking. As well as this baseline cost of the tour, there are a few things that you need to factor into your budget that Medsailors do not include. Firstly, there is a local payment which everyone must pay at the beginning, which is around £80, and then you can purchase your own drink and snacks to bring on board. You can spend as much or as little as you would like. I think Karen and I collectively spent around £20 on this to last us the entire week, so a tenner each. And then you have dinner every evening, which on average was costing us around £15 per night, plus however many drinks you plan on drinking out. So I'd say I spent an extra £15 on 4 or 5 drinks whilst on the island, so £30 per night on that. And then activities, if you want to do any special water sports that may be available or extra tours, I would budget maybe £75 for the week for things like that. So adding all of that up, we're looking at roughly wanting to bring an extra £350 with you. That is from the point of checking in to saying goodbye to Medsailors. That doesn't include your transport to Croatia, travel insurance, and any accommodation or travel you do outside of the tour, just so that's clear. I typically don't like group tours simply because I love freedom when I travel, but that being said, Medsailors is the only group tour that I have ever done that I have just loved. I think the main reason for that is just the lifestyle of waking up on a boat and the very first thing you do every morning is dive into the crystal clear ocean before a nice hot coffee and someone making you breakfast. Like, there is just not many things better, for me anyway. They take me to places I've never even heard of before, which is cool because I know I'd probably never see them otherwise, and you still get your freedom. Every afternoon when you're dropped off at an island, you're given suggestions and recommendations, but you can do whatever the hell you want, and so for me, it's like the best of all worlds. So that's my overview. Now I'm going to answer a few frequently asked questions which are useful to know before booking or embarking on a Medsailors trip. So firstly, is Medsailors good for solo travellers? Do many people go on their own? How are the groups organised? Can it be changed if I'm more of a party person or not a party person?
It's okay if you're a solo traveller, because you'll meet great people.
So yes, as Sasha said, who was a solo traveller on the tour this year, it is a fantastic tour for solo travellers because you're just with people the whole time, and it's just so easy to make friends with not only the other people on your boat, but the other people on the tour as well. When you book your tour online, Medsailors gives you the option to write any notes, and this is your opportunity to say, hey, I'm a solo traveller, I'm looking to make friends. Either, yes, I am a party person, or no, I'm not a party person. Tell them as many things about your personality as you can, because Medsailors really do read this and use that information to put you on a boat where they think you're going to get along with the other people. Is Medsailors good for couples? I would say yes, and especially on the catamarans. Both Greece and Croatia trips that I've done, we had lots of couples on our boats, but couples who were still willing to socialise with other people. Like, if you're the type of couple that doesn't really like to socialise, just likes to be with each other, then maybe Medsailors isn't the perfect trip for you. But if you're a couple who still really likes to socialise with other people and get involved, then this is absolutely perfect because you have your own bedroom and space at times, but ultimately you're still a part of the group and everyone respects you as individuals as they do as a couple. And is Medsailors good for groups? Yes, very much so. You can actually book a whole boat to yourself so that your entire squad can have its own boat if you want, and then obviously you're just still sailing with all the other people, so there's still a chance to meet everyone else who's on the tour. So yes, it's good for solos, good for couples, good for groups, and good for just traveling with your friends as well. As you've seen, I was traveling with my friend Karen and we just had the best time ever because we enjoy each other's company and we're there for each other, but we can hang out with everyone else as well and we can make new friends. What are the sleeping quarters really like? How many people are on each tour? So it depends on the boat that you're on, and you can see here the kind of layout of each boat. I'd definitely say you do have the most space on the catamaran, but that's not to say that you don't have enough space on the yachts. The rooms are actually fairly similar sizes. I think the main difference in space is the outside space with each of the boats, but the sleeping areas are nice, they're clean, they're very basic, but you know, they do the job. You know, you're there to sleep in them, there's somewhere to put your clothes, there's a fan, you normally have a window where you can get some air ventilation in there as well. I think each boat holds like 8 to 10 people, they're not always full, and on both the tours that I've done there's been about 7 boats travelling together. What is the age range for people that generally go on these tours? So on the Medsailors website it says it's for 20 to 35 year olds, and in my experience this is very, very accurate. Anyone could be any of those ages, but it doesn't really seem to matter what age you are. Everyone's just there for a good time and to enjoy the trip. But as a 25-year-old this year and a 24-year-old last year, I felt like I was kind of in the middle ground, maybe middle to younger, which for me is perfect. Personally, I just always think it's about mindset with the ages of the people you're hanging out with. How did Croatia compare to Greece? Would you go again? If I'm honest, I think I preferred Greece. They were both fantastic. The reason I say Greece is because I kind of went into that trip with no expectations, and it just blew me away. Whereas going into Croatia, I had very high expectations. I mean, it's always based on a few factors like the people who you have on your boat, the weather. So we didn't have the best weather in Croatia, but that was just luck. But I think the main reason why I personally preferred Greece was because I've always been fascinated with ancient Greece, and I know a lot of my ancestors are from there, and so it was just like a really interesting place for me to visit. But I know a lot of people that would argue that Croatia's better. Honestly, I loved them both. Would you consider doing other Medsailors locations? And 100%. So I know they go to Italy. There's more than one Croatia route, as well as there's more than one Greece route. They've got Turkey, Montenegro. I think Montenegro intrigues me the most because I don't know anything about it and I've never considered going there, so I think that would be really, really interesting. For first-time Medsailors, which route would you recommend first? Honestly, just whichever sounds the best to you. I wouldn't say that one is necessarily better than others for a first-timer. They're all very similar in the way that they work. I would just go to whichever place intrigues you more. So obviously that was Greece for me, but maybe you're really into Game of Thrones and would like Croatia. I don't know. Do you get travel sick? Is it really rocky, or do people just gradually get used to it? So seasickness is definitely a thing that can happen on Medsailors. It's not that bad. Some people don't get seasick at all. I personally normally don't get seasick, but if I've had a drink the night before and perhaps the water is a bit choppier than usual, then yeah, I probably will feel a bit seasick. So I do strongly suggest bringing seasickness tablets with you and taking them before you leave in the morning. So ask your skipper the night before, okay, what time are we setting sail in the morning? And set yourself an alarm for, I don't know, 15 minutes before that time. Take your tablet and then it would have kicked in by the time you set off and you should be sweet. At least that was the case in my experience. No one on our boat was seasick last year. And last year there was only one day where a few of us were seasick. And the reason was we had a big night out the night before and it was a particularly choppy day. And I took a seasickness tablet, but only after we started going. And so, yeah, it came straight back up, which is not a pretty thought. But Karen took it before she left and she was completely fine. So you can kind of feel like there is a trend going on here. What happens if you're not the most confident swimmer or diver? Oh, I haven't actually had this question yet. So they do have life jackets on board Medsailors, and I'm sure if you wanted to, you could just go swimming with a life jacket on. But I would only really use that if you really, really can't swim. But if that's the case, I would question going on Medsailors at all. If you don't feel super confident, you can always just go in with a floaty, stay on the lilo or in a ring, or maybe the paddleboard, just have some sort of flotation device. But the waters that you go in when you go swimming, they're not choppy at all. They're always very, very still. So if it's that's the concern, then you don't really need to worry. And how far in advance should I book? Does it sell out? I'm starting to plan my 2020 trip. I personally would book as far in advance as you can, because right now they've got the early bird prices out, so it is cheaper to book now than what it probably is in about 6 months' time. Yes, most of the tours do sell out. They don't sell out like 12 months in advance, but they do sell out eventually. So I definitely would not leave it until right at the last minute. If you know the dates that you want to go in 2020, personally, I would just book as soon as possible. And that is it. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.